Good morning. My name is Stelios Ziglitopoulos, and on behalf of my co-authors, Naomi Garberg and Pavlo Simeou, I would like to present this paper on corporate social performance, reputation, and financial performance. Basically, the main idea of the paper is to look into how trust in different institutional environments affects these three main characters of our story, if you want. Now, let's move on to the background of the story, basically. Well, for the last 30, I think it's actually more than 30 years, it's probably close to 50. Anyway, there has been research on the link between corporate social performance, corporate reputation, and corporate financial performance. The usual understanding of this that has emerged from multiple studies is that there is a relationship there, and that corporate reputation sort of mediates, if you want, this between corporate social performance or corporate financial performance, the relationship. And there is a positive relationship. That's the idea we've been having that's what a lot of theories have been finding. A lot of research has been finding, sorry. Now, there is some evidence that has been suggesting that the corporate social performance or corporate financial performance relationship is not linear and non-direct. And we did some of this work as well. But this relationship has not been examined in different institutional environments. I don't know the exact percentage, but I would guess 90% is done on US companies. So it's unclear how national institutional environments affect these three characters, these three variables in their relationships. And this could, to some extent, explain why there is a variance in the effectiveness of different kinds of CSP, corporate social performance initiatives. So what we're doing here is we're trying to look at the different institutional environments of a number of countries and see how the institutional environments impact this relationship of these three variables. First of all, the way we understand institutions is that the formal and informal controls of the behavior of firms, including laws, regulations, norms, and culture. And there have been a number of studies, several studies at least, that have been examining the influence of national institutions on CSR. Now, what we are looking at is trust, and particularly trust in business. We start with the insight that when trust is abundant, when a lot of people trust the business in general, this will be different from when trust is extremely rare. So basically, what we are trying to do here is we are drawing on signaling theory to say that corporate social performance is basically a signal that the firms send, but a signal that is sent in an environment where trust is rare and where the public doesn't really trust businesses in general. This signal will have a different effect than in an environment where trust is abundant and individuals trust the companies very, very much. Now, there is a lot of literature on the signaling environment and on signals and signaling theory. One of the things that we're looking at, which has not been looked at very much, is noise and distortion. In other words, the medium through which the signal goes through, how much does that affect the transmission? Just like trying to send a sound wave between in an environment where air is the medium, and a sound wave in an environment where water is the medium, it gets distorted. The same thing here that we're trying to do. Now, we conceive public trust in business as the willingness of the public as a stakeholder to become vulnerable to the actions of business as a general institution. And I must emphasize here, as a general institution, we do not refer to the trust of a particular business, towards a particular business. You might trust Johnson & Johnson, or you might trust, I don't know, whichever company you might trust, or you might not trust another company because for whatever reasons. But we don't talk about that. What we're interested in is the public trust, the trust towards businesses. And we can see that this differs from country to country. Finally, reputation we see as the general favorability towards a firm and its stakeholders, and there are a number of similar definitions of reputation. I don't want to spend much time here. Now, what we hypothesize based on this background and on this theoretical background is that corporate reputation mediates the positive relationship between corporate social performance and corporate financial performance. Now, this is a sort of what emerges from the literature up until now. So this is like our baseline hypothesis. This is not really very new, but we have the data. Let's test it in different countries. Now, what we're saying, in addition to this, what we're adding to all this, what's the new thing here, is that we're looking at how trust influences the perceptions of CSP. CSP is a signal. How is it perceived in low trust countries and high trust countries? So what we're hypothesizing is that trust positively moderates the relationship between corporate social performance and corporate reputation. In countries where people trust businesses, they will believe that CSP is really honest and it will contribute to the reputation. In countries where people don't trust businesses, they will see the CSP in a cynical way and they will kind of dismiss it, and therefore it will not add to the company's reputation. On the other hand, we move to H3 when we're talking about the relationship between corporate reputation and corporate financial performance. What we're saying is that in high trust countries, corporate reputation, a good corporate reputation, is less rare. So they're not saying anything that is exceptional. Therefore, it will not have as good as a big an effect on financial performance. In the contrary, the opposite will be happening in low trust countries. In low trust countries, countries that don't have high levels of public trust towards corporations, the corporate reputation will be more rare. Therefore, it will have more of a value. It will be more of a positive effect. It will have more of a positive effect. Trust, in other words, H3, is that trust negatively moderates the relationship between corporate reputation and corporate financial performance. So there's a negative effect here. Let's go to our data, or rather, let's go to our hypothesis in a more of a visual way. As you can see, our variables and how trust in business affects our hypotheses. What we did to test this hypothesis is we drew on corporate financial performance from Thomson's and corporate social performance from Thomson Reuters Asset4 database, which has a lot of data for about 4,000 or 5,000 companies worldwide. We drew from the Reputation Institute's RepTrack Pulse scores, the reputation data. And the trust in business we drew from the World Value Survey. We included a number of control variables at the firm level, the country level, and yearly dummies. And basically, just to give you an idea, these are the countries we looked at. And you can see that they have a significant variance in the trust of the public towards companies. We had Brazil, China, France, Germany, India, Japan, Mexico, Sweden, and USA. Now, these countries, you can see the difference, and it's 49.5, but because my Excel is French, it says comma. Apologies for that. Anyway, let's move to how we did it. Well, we had an unbalanced panel of 462 companies from 2006 to 2012. 2,534 observations, 9 countries, which I showed you earlier. And we use hierarchical linear modeling. There was no other way to do this because it allowed us to account for the uniqueness of the data. We use random effects for the country, industry, and firm level, mean centered all independent variables, and the average VIFs were below 10, so we didn't have a problem there. We lagged the dependent variables for 1 year to enable us to have some kind of causal inference, and that's what we did. What we did find is that H1 was supported. Corporate reputation did indeed play a mediating role between corporate social performance and corporate financial performance. H2, trust positively moderates the relationship, was again supported. So we found that in countries that had a higher trust, corporate social performance was perceived as a positive signal towards corporate reputation, while the opposite was true for negative, for a country with lower trust. And finally, H3, we did find what we were expecting, that trust negatively moderates the relationship between corporate reputation and corporate financial performance. Now, there are certain implications, contributions and implication of this paper that we're presenting here. First of all, we sort of follow or react to Pisani, Korula, and Kolk and Meyer 2017 call for more comparative longitudinal case studies, CSR studies. Second, we're looking at institutional context as the interest of us is our interest is in institutional context and how this institutional context influences the different mechanisms. We look at something that is not been really researched to a great length: trust in business, general trust, not trust of a particular business. There has been a lot of research in trust literature on specific trust in specific organizations, or trust between different organizations, or trust between a stakeholder in the organization. We don't do that. What we do is like trust in business as a sort of something that characterizes a country or a society, if you want. And we acknowledge, of course, that trust might be rare or abundant. Next steps, we want to examine additional CSP attributes. We basically just now in this paper, we just looked at CSP as corporate social performance, and we took the social pillar of asset 4 as an indicator. Things might be different for the environmental pillar. We might do an ESG analysis. Anyway, there are more kind of variables and sub-variables in asset 4. Asset 4 has numerous different kind of variables that allows you to look at different CSP attributes, and we are working on the theoretical justification on why different CSP attributes would be appropriate to look rather than others. We also want to examine additional kinds of trust. If you look at the society level, trust is not only towards business, but individuals in a society have more or less trust towards each other, have more or less trust towards governments, other institutions, and so on. And a final implication or a goal of this is to get this paper published. Thank you very much. And I'm very sorry I didn't have a chance to see you in Miami. Thank you. Bye-bye.